Red and blue lights bled across my driveway, flashing off the chrome of my Camaro. 4 officers advanced like I'd just robbed a bank. And there was Brenda Wilson, our HOA president, our self-appointed queen, screaming into her phone, pointing straight at me. That's the thief. He stole my car. Except it wasn't hers. It was mine. The car I'd spent 18 months rebuilding bolt by bolt. So tell me, what would you do if your neighbor called 911 to have you arrested in your own driveway? Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's Marcus Rodriguez, third-generation mechanic. My grandfather started the first Rodriguez auto shop in this town with nothing but a few hand-me-down wrenches. My dad carried it on. And me. Well, I ended up with grease under my fingernails, scars on my knuckles, and a habit of documenting every single repair like it was gospel. When my marriage fell apart last spring, I walked away with a duffel bag, a battered tool chest, and just enough cash to buy a small house in Willowbrook Estates. Middle-class paradise, they called it. Rows of identical mailboxes, lawns trimmed to ruler precision, neighbors who smiled a little too wide. I thought I was buying stability. What I didn't know was that I was stepping into Brenda Wilson's kingdom. Brenda was the kind of woman who measured grass with a ruler and carried a clipboard like it was a weapon. French-tipped nails, salon blonde hair, BMW so polished it looked allergic to dust. She wasn't just the HOA president, she was a brand, a performance, the stage manager of our entire neighborhood. And the rest of us, just unwilling extras in her little play. The first time she marched into my garage, I had grease on my hands, an impact wrench buzzing. She tapped her clipboard and said, "Excuse me, but there's a noise ordinance. No power tools after 6. You're disturbing the community." I wiped my hands on a rag, forced a smile. "Actually, city ordinance says 9 p.m. If you want, I can show you the paperwork." Her jaw tightened. "Industrial activity like this affects property values." Industrial activity? Like I was running a chop shop instead of bringing a rusted '67 Camaro back to life. I held her gaze. "This is my garage. This is my car." Her smile froze sharp as glass. And in that moment I knew this wasn't about noise. It was about control. Act 2. Escalation and breaking point. A week later, Brenda was throwing one of her poolside show's neighbors, sipping wine, kids splashing. And right there, I heard her voice, loud, triumphant. "Oh, that's my new Camaro. Bought it from a dealer in Phoenix. 45 grand. Worth every penny." I froze, because the car she was showing off in those glossy photos, same year, same color, same model, my Camaro, except hers didn't exist outside of a stock photo. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just nitpicking rules, she was rewriting reality, and sooner or later she'd try to make her fantasy real at my expense. And sure enough, one Thursday night as I closed my garage, sirens wailed. Police cruisers screeched to a stop, officers with hands hovering near their holsters. Brenda shrieked, "That's him! He's stealing my car right now." My heart pounded like a piston ready to throw a rod. One wrong move and I wasn't a homeowner, I was a suspect. I forced my voice calm. "Officers, this is my house, this is my car, my name's on the title." Before she could spit more venom, I grabbed the thick binder I'd built, photos, VIN numbers, DMV paperwork, insurance logs. I laid it all on the hood like evidence at a trial. One officer whistled low. "Hell of a job," he muttered, flipping through the photos of rust turning into chrome. Brenda shoved her dealer photos at them, red-faced. "See? These are mine." The veteran officer shook his head. "Ma'am, these are stock images. No VIN, no registration. That's not proof." For a second the triumph drained from her face. But the very next morning I opened my mailbox to find a violation notice, unauthorized commercial vehicle storage. My work van. The same van I'd driven for years with my family name painted neatly on the side. Brenda had turned my livelihood into her next weapon. Then came more. Oil stains, noise complaints, smells from industrial activity. Every envelope was another cut. And I'll admit it, there was a night I sat at my kitchen table, a stack of violation letters in front of me, thinking maybe she'd won. Maybe I should just sell the house, walk away, start over somewhere else. What was I doing fighting a one-woman army armed with bylaws? I actually asked myself, what if I'm the problem? What if she's right and I don't belong here. That's the kind of poison Brenda spread. Not just fines, but doubt. But then came the turning point. She called an emergency HOA meeting, 3 board members at a folding table. Effective immediately, she announced all auto repair in Willowbrook is banned. Past violations carry a $500 fine. I leaned back, opened my copy of the bylaws, and read them aloud. Section 4.3, 7 days notice required for any vote. Section 4.7, quorum of 5 members. I count 3. And Section 2.9, any action without proper quorum creates personal liability. You don't just risk HOA funds, you risk your own bank accounts. Silence. Her allies froze, her smile cracked, and for the first time Brenda looked scared. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. Neighbors started showing up at my table. Tom the mailman with stories of her citations, Sarah the accountant with financial records, Mike the lawyer with his shark-toothed grin and a stack of bylaws, Linda the teacher with color-coded timelines, Carlos the contractor with cameras and motion sensors. What Brenda thought was isolation had turned into a coalition. Act 3. The showdown. Desperation makes people sloppy. One morning I found roofing nails scattered across my driveway like landmines. That night my cameras caught Brenda sneaking with a hoodie pulled low. Days later she planted oil jugs behind my garage, then called the city about an environmental hazard. My cameras caught that too. And when she offered Carlos a cash bribe, $2,000 to look the other way, he recorded every word. Then came the letters. Not HOA violations anymore. Anonymous threats. Your kind doesn't belong here. Leave before things get worse. My hand shook, reading it not from fear, but from the weight of knowing where this was heading. I turned it over to the police. They called it what it was, a hate crime. Meanwhile, Sarah uncovered something even bigger: embezzlement. Nearly $96,000 siphoned from HOA funds into Brenda's personal accounts. Landscaping jobs that never existed. Consulting fees paid to companies registered at her own address. The walls of her empire were crumbling. And then she made her final mistake. 2 a.m. HOA office. Our cameras caught her fumbling with a master key, hauling stacks of files to the shredder, feeding them through like a woman possessed. Paper snow poured onto the carpet. She thought if she shredded fast enough, the truth would vanish. But red and blue lights lit up the windows again. Officers burst in, catching her elbow deep in confetti. When the shredder jammed, so did her future. The next week, our community center overflowed. Neighbors, shoulder to shoulder, eyes burning with years of frustration. Evidence stacked high on the front table, spreadsheets, receipts, camera footage. Tom stood first. We've all been robbed, not just of money, but of trust. One by one, voices rose. Stories of harassment, fines, fear. Each one another nail in her coffin. When the motion to remove her was read, every hand shot up. Unanimous. Brenda Wilson, the Queen of Willowbrook, was dethroned in her own court. Final beat. And that's where it ended. The woman who called cops to arrest me for stealing my own car was led away in cuffs, not by her power, but by her own lies. Lesson. Truth leaves a trail, and if you document everything, it will always outlast the lies.